Welcome. You're about to hear a story that might shake the very foundation of your beliefs, a story that reveals a transgression so many unknowingly commit, one that could have consequences lasting an eternity. In this film, you'll journey through an extraordinary experience that will open your eyes to a reality few ever consider. It's a tale of redemption and revelation, of a man who came face to face with a truth he had denied his entire life. So, sit back, relax, and join me as we explore this profound and life-changing experience together. If you haven't subscribed yet, I invite you to do so now so we can continue to explore deeper and discover the greater purpose that awaits us. You won't want to miss this. Let me start by telling you a little about myself. I grew up in a religious household, raised with strong beliefs in God. Even now, at 55 years old, my life has always revolved around faith. My mother instilled in me the practice of praying every morning and evening, a tradition I have faithfully followed throughout my life. I always considered myself a good person, a Christian who truly believed in God's love and mercy, someone who strived to live according to His commandments. I never thought much about hell. I saw it as a concept meant to scare people into behaving, not as a real place. I believed that as long as I was doing the right things, praying, attending church, living a good life, I was assured of a place in heaven. The idea that anyone, including myself, might be at risk of eternal suffering never crossed my mind. I also didn't believe in divine judgment in the way some others did. To me, hell was just a metaphor, a story meant to illustrate the consequences of sin, not a literal place of torment. I was convinced that God, being loving and merciful, would never send anyone to such a fate. I felt secure in my faith, certain that my good deeds and regular prayers were enough to secure my eternal salvation. But this belief, as comforting as it was, would soon be challenged in a way I never expected. One Saturday afternoon in the spring, everything seemed perfect. The sun was shining, the air was crisp and pleasant with a gentle breeze, and I was at the wedding of my childhood friend, David. We had been close since we were children, and even though life had taken us in different directions, we had remained friends. The wedding took place in a beautiful garden, surrounded by lush trees and vibrant flowers. It was simple yet elegant, and everything felt just right. After the ceremony, we gathered for a reception with delicious food and lively conversations. The guests were happy, and the atmosphere was filled with joy. I felt at peace, thankful for the life I had, and for the loving faith that had always guided me. Then came the moment to cut the wedding cake. It was a beautiful creation, layered with chocolate and white frosting. I didn't think twice as I grabbed a large piece and took a bite, so caught up in the celebration. But there was one thing I hadn't considered: the severe peanut allergy I had. I didn't check the ingredients, and as I ate, I felt a slight itching in my throat. At first I thought it was nothing, just a minor irritation, but within minutes, the sensation became a tightness that made it harder to breathe. My heart started racing, and my chest felt like it was being squeezed. I tried to remain calm, not wanting to cause any disruption at my friend's wedding, but the panic was rising. I reassured myself it would pass, but it only got worse. My breathing became more labored, and soon I couldn't even stand. The world around me seemed to blur, and then everything went black. The next thing I knew, I was in complete darkness, nothing but emptiness. I couldn't feel my body or my heartbeat. It was as if I had ceased to exist, and time itself had no meaning. I was no longer in the garden, no longer at the wedding. It was a place beyond space and time, a void I couldn't understand. Then suddenly, a light appeared. But this wasn't just any light. It was a living, pulsating light, white, but with a warmth that drew me in. Even in my confusion and fear, I felt myself being pulled toward it, unable to resist. The closer I got, the brighter the light became, until it was blinding. And then I saw a figure. It was distant at first, but it became clearer the closer I drew near. There was something familiar about it, yet I couldn't place it. It was magnificent, serene, and overwhelming all at once. The figure spoke, its voice deep and calm. "John." The words resonated not just in my ears, but deep within my soul. "It is time for you to see what you have always denied." Even in the face of this overwhelming presence, I felt strangely at peace, but at the same time, my heart was heavy with a rising sense of dread. I felt like I was being judged, like everything I had believed was about to be shattered. The figure continued, its voice echoing in my mind. "You never thought hell existed. You always assumed it was just a myth, a scare tactic for sinners. But now, you will see the truth." Before I could fully comprehend what was happening, the world around me shifted. The light faded, and what I saw next was beyond anything I could have imagined. Before me stretched a vast, desolate landscape, mountains of scorched earth rising from a chasm of fire. The air was thick with smoke and ash, and the heat was unbearable. The sky above was black, streaked with crimson lightning that lit up the night in bursts of fury. But what struck me most were the souls trapped in the flames. People were burning, writhing in agony, their screams filling the air. It was the kind of pain I couldn't begin to comprehend. Some of them reached out, seemingly desperate to escape, but their eyes were hollow with despair. And then, a horrifying realization hit me. I recognized some of them. These were people I knew, people who, like me, had considered themselves good, faithful Christians. I saw pastors, deacons, and others who had attended church every Sunday, yet there they were, consumed by the fire. Their hands were folded in a gesture of prayer, but it was too late. I couldn't hold back my shock. "Why are they here?" I whispered, my voice trembling. The figure responded, its tone grave. "Because they lived in pride, just like you. They prayed, but their hearts were closed. They judged others, thinking their own faith was enough to save them. They never acknowledged the sin in their own hearts. They believed my forgiveness was automatic, without ever considering the cost of their pride." I was deeply moved by the words I heard that day. It felt as though a truth I had been avoiding had suddenly hit me, one that I had never wanted to confront. At that moment, everything I had done in my life, the prayers I had said, the good deeds I had tried to perform, seemed meaningless, almost like they weren't real. For the first time, I truly saw my own sins, and I realized that I had always believed that prayer alone would be enough to receive forgiveness. I hadn't understood the depth of my own shortcomings. As I processed this, a mixture of regret and guilt overwhelmed me, and I felt both helpless and depressed by what had just been revealed to me. One of the speakers had said something that struck me deeply. "There is a sin that almost everyone commits without realizing it, and it can have eternal consequences." He continued by mentioning a video in which a man shares his dramatic experience of seeing hell and receiving a direct message from God about this sin. It was at that moment that I realized how unaware I had been about something so crucial. As I listened, I found myself thinking about the significance of this message. At a place called Heaven's Gate, I had been hearing stories of mystery and redemption, experiences that went beyond the boundaries of life as we know it. The speaker invited me to continue this journey of discovery, hoping that by sharing such stories, others would find a deeper purpose in life. I was told to stay tuned for more, to relax, and to reflect, as every story shared had the potential to help guide someone toward a greater understanding. My name is John. I'm 55 years old, and I grew up in a household where faith was central. From a young age, my mother taught me to pray every morning and every evening, and I continued this practice throughout my life. I considered myself a devout Christian, someone who believed deeply in God's love and compassion. I thought of myself as a good person, one who followed God's commandments and tried to live according to Christian teachings. I never truly believed in the existence of hell, and I assumed that God's forgiveness was always available to me, no matter what. Hell, I thought, was just a scare tactic meant for non-believers, not for someone like me. I believed that as long as I prayed regularly, went to church on Sundays, and lived a morally upright life, I was guaranteed a place in heaven. This belief was something I never questioned, and I felt no fear about the possibility of hell, thinking it didn't apply to people like me. I had no idea that my understanding of things might be completely wrong. It was a beautiful spring Saturday, and everything seemed perfect. The sun was shining high in the sky, and a gentle breeze made the air feel fresh. I was at the wedding of my childhood friend, David. We had been close since we were little, and even though life had pulled us in different directions over the years, our bond had remained strong. It was a joyous day for both of us, and the wedding was simple yet full of meaning. The ceremony took place in a lovely garden surrounded by tall trees and blooming flowers. Afterward, a reception was held under large white tents decorated with floral garlands. The tables were set with care, and guests mingled, laughing and enjoying the delicious food while soft background music played. I felt at peace, surrounded by friends, and grateful for the blessings in my life. My faith made me feel secure, and I continued to pray frequently, trusting that it was enough. When it was time for the cake cutting, the atmosphere grew even more festive. David and his new wife cut the wedding cake while the guests applauded. I was the first to take a piece, enjoying the sweet treat topped with white icing and chocolate accents. It was only afterward, as I ate the cake, that I realized I had made a mistake. I had a severe peanut allergy, though I rarely thought about it. In the excitement of the celebration, I didn't stop to check the contents of the cake. Soon after eating it, I felt an itch in my throat, but I shrugged it off as a minor irritation. However, within moments, the itching worsened, and I began to feel like I was suffocating. My chest tightened, and it became harder and harder to breathe. My heart pounded in my chest, and I started to panic. I tried not to draw attention to myself, but fear gripped me as I looked around. I didn't want to ruin the joyous occasion for my friend. I kept telling myself that it wasn't so bad, that it would pass, but with each passing minute I felt weaker and more helpless. Finally, I tried to stand, but my legs gave way beneath me, and I collapsed into darkness. I was no longer in the garden. I no longer felt my body. There was no sense of time, no awareness of the world around me. It was as if I had entered an entirely different realm, one that was foreign and undefined. Then, out of the darkness, a light appeared. This light was unlike anything I had ever seen. It was white but warm, almost alive, pulsing with energy. Something about it drew me in, and I found myself moving toward it, as though I had no choice. As I got closer, a figure began to emerge from the light. I couldn't make out the details of their appearance, but there was something familiar about the presence. It was peaceful, yet powerful. I felt a mix of calm and anxiety as the figure spoke to me. "John," the voice said, gentle yet profound. "It is time for you to see what you've always refused to see." The voice didn't just reach my ears. It seemed to resonate within me, as if the words were entering my very soul. Despite the calmness I felt, a sense of deep stress began to build within me. It was as if I was being confronted with something I could no longer deny. The figure continued, "You never truly believed in hell. You always thought it was just a myth, something to scare sinners. Now, I will show you the truth." Suddenly, the scene before me changed. The light faded, and what replaced it was something terrifying, something that defied all logic. Before me was an expanse of jagged, burning earth. Mountains of fire reached into the sky, and smoke and ash filled the air. The heat was unbearable, and the very sky seemed to burn with a crimson light. But it wasn't the landscape that shook me the most. It was the people I saw there. Screaming in agony, men and women were trapped in the flames. Their pain was so intense that it felt like I could feel it too. Some of them reached out as though pleading for help, but there was no hope in their eyes. Others twisted and writhed in unimaginable suffering. The worst part was that I recognized some of them, people I had known, people I had prayed with, and yes, even Christians who went to church regularly, just like me. I saw deacons, pastors, and longtime church members among them, their bodies consumed by the flames. They appeared as though they were still praying, their hands folded, but there was no response. They were trapped in an eternity of torment. I couldn't understand it. "Why are they here?" I asked in disbelief, unable to take my eyes off the horrifying scene. The figure replied, "Because they lived in pride, just like you. They prayed, but they never truly opened their hearts. They believed that their faith alone would save them, but they ignored the sin hidden within their hearts. They lived with the idea that forgiveness was automatic without understanding the price of their pride." Those words struck me to the core. Everything I had believed in, everything I thought I knew about my faith, suddenly seemed meaningless. The prayers I had said, the things I had done, all of it seemed empty now. The people in front of me had lived the same way I had, thinking that faith alone was enough, that forgiveness was guaranteed without truly changing their hearts. I had never considered the depth of pride and sin that might exist within me. As the realization sank in, tears began to well up in my eyes. "Is there anything I can do?" I asked, desperate for an answer. The figure drew closer, and I felt a sense of relief, as though a heavy weight had been lifted from me. "There is only one thing you must do," the voice said softly. "You must humble yourself and be willing to change your heart. Redemption is possible for those who seek it, but it requires a true transformation." At that moment, I understood. I wasn't alone in my flaws, and neither was anyone else. We all have our pride, our flaws, no matter how devout we may think we are. But anyone who is willing to humble themselves, to truly change, can find redemption. This experience changed me forever. I hope that by sharing this, you will also find a new understanding, one that leads you to a deeper faith and a willingness to reflect on your own life. Thank you for listening to my story. I encourage you to leave your thoughts in the comments, share this with others who may benefit from it, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more stories that can inspire you. Together, we can grow in love, wisdom, and purpose.